aware of where it is on the internet.
I've gotten really
And
lucky.
so it can, it's connected to a phone or a mobile device in your life. So it's aware of where it is on the internet. But there isn't, like, as far as I understand, there is not a GPS chip in those devices. It's just as soon as it's on the internet, it's aware where it is.
I know I could sit there and say, what's the temperature?
Well, I think
And
Mom
it'll tell
said
me
you
the
will
temperature
watch.
here.
Yeah.
But it works
Like
out.
in Colorado, that's what the temperature is. It tells me the temperature there.
Because each device can actually be geolocated.
But you can, what you do,
What do you think? We're already screaming.
Dog may love riding.
Oh, the house is
Have we got the beautiful shot?
home bathing.
Yeah.
It's true. We both get in the shower
Yeah,
together.
it is.
you
It
know.
looks good.
Me from
I
the
was
drive.
thinking about
Yeah.
pumping up the color on
No,
this
her
one.
name is Becky,
Oh, I've heard about her.
and she lives in Tecumseh. Yeah. I really liked her. Her house isn't all that clean either, but Leon really liked her. He
That's
got
the
to
yellow
sleep on
phone.
bed.
You don't think that's kind of dark? Yeah, it is. It's that one right there.
My dogs sleep in their
Oh.
kennel, and I went, oh, well, that won't
Oh, okay.
work then, because Leon sleeps up on the bed. He might sleep
So-
beside the bed, but he'll get up on the bed later. She goes, oh, no, that's fine.
Well, we gotta go.
So sweet.
You can move it around, but I'm gonna start.
Eyes and-
But I do love having a camera with no cables connected to this laptop.
Because he was a rescue, and you don't know what they went through.
How's everybody doing? Are we ready?
Almost.
Almost? What are we waiting for? Oh! Well, I'm ready.
Is it time?
It's time.
fill your coffee up hot too.
Oh, that's what I need. Wait, we can't start yet because I don't have a full pot of coffee, a full cup of coffee. A pot of coffee. Okay. We're about to start. We're calling this meeting to order. To some semblance of order. A random kind of chaos.
You're talking to the wrong people.
Welcome to Tequilas. Welcome to the San Carlos Computer Club meeting. I'm Scott Stimson, the host you can't get rid of. Welcome. I'm very happy to see all you guys. There's we have a smaller group than we had last. I mean, I'm still just amazed that I would say that when we've got two sets of tables. That we're having a smaller group than we had last week.
Your legs are not as beautiful.
Is that what it is? I don't know. In that respect, speaking of my wife, not necessarily of her legs, but if you hadn't noticed, I put that computer club on the YouTube channel, so you guys can go back and listen to her if there's information that you missed. I was amazed that she was able to last the whole hour. She really wanted to get out of here in a half hour. And I told her she can take as much time as she wants, and she filled up our whole hour last week. So that was pretty cool.
Got a lot of very useful information.
Yeah. So that's up on the YouTube channel.
But there was some information that was not good not from her, but from the people that she had to hand out. And I would encourage people to use the 800 number to let people know that in Puerto Vallarta and other places, they do give a discount for water, and they don't here because you can't vote.
That's the answer that, Bob, you're getting in the water company when you try and get a discount
That's the
using
water
that
company.
card.
Direct.
And what I understand is that it's a state thing. So I think calling the 800 number makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Yeah, because if they are supposed to give the discount, then it might just be a Wymus thing.
Oh,
In
they're terrible.
Tucson,
I went to get my discount as a citizen. It took me 3 hours before the guy would say yes.
To your water.
Yeah.
Oh, but you did get
I
it.
had
Oh, you're a
I had-
citizen,
yeah,
that's right.
I had all my U.S. documents, all my Mexican documents. I had bills from 1998, and he kept saying no. Finally, I said, I'm very proud of this. It took me 15 years to do it, and I'm not leaving till I get it. And I just sat back in the chair. I finally called Yayita, and he said, give it to her. He didn't want to give it to me.
Good for you.
Don't tell me no.
Well, I'm proud of you.
well, in Tucson, you get tax break if you are a non-citizen. You get water paid 100% if you're a
Oh, tax
non-citizen.
break in Tucson?
In Tucson, you get everything under the sun.
Property tax?
No.
What tax are you talking about?
In Tucson,
Yeah, what tax? State,
you get
property?
property tax, water bill, electric bill.
Oh.
You can get everything totally paid for.
Totally paid for.
I found out through a
Oh,
fellow
you've
that
gotta
was,
be
who claims to be very,
It's
very
dirty.
poor.
Yeah, you have to be poverty.
That's the word.
So I brought some tech topics if anyone's interested.
Little hard to relate to this stuff. huh?
I'm just waiting for it to be tied into Computer Club, other than the meeting that we had last
It'll
week.
tie somewhere.
Somewhere.
Bill's computer generated, so.
Yeah, there you go. It's a computer-generated bill. Does anybody have any questions or topics they wanted to bring up? Is
No.
we're
My
yeah.
transmitter to the television for Bluetooth did work. So I bought a transmitter that I hooked up to the television and it transmits Bluetooth sound to whatever you want.
Oh, great. So your TV, your streaming box,
My regular TV box.
yeah, it has Bluetooth.
It doesn't have Bluetooth on the TV, so
Okay.
I had to get a Bluetooth transmitter to fit on it's a smart TV, but I also put it on one that wasn't even a smart TV and it worked also.
Oh, great. What kind of connector does it use?
You
Is
go
it the
into
red,
audio out
white?
port.
Is it the
The
red,
audio
white,
out.
yellow? Oh, okay. The
Well, it
audio
depends
out.
on the kind of TV.
Okay.
One of them uses just a single port for the audio out, and the other television uses the two connectors, depending on the kind of TV. you
Kind of
have.
TV it is. But it sounds like it's an analog signal, so you're able to plug that into almost anything, right?
Yeah, once you get the Bluetooth transmitter, I mean, the little portable speakers work, your headphones, whatever you want. Anyway, it did work, and they told us at Best Buy that you couldn't do that, but you can.
Very good.
Yeah.
What were you
Amazon.
using this for?
My husband started hearing, and I wanted a little Bluetooth speaker that I could put on the back of the chair.
Ah,
Yeah, no, that
And
sounds
they're
great.
portable Bluetooth speakers that don't have to be plugged in. They have like 12-hour batteries on them.
So the Bluetooth connector, what is the proper word for that?
Transmitter.
Transmitter. The Bluetooth transmitter that you bought to connect analog to your TV set. Where did you get it, and do you recommend it?
Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is
You
it a
guys
name brand that we
recommended
know?
I go to Amazon, so I bought the one that was there, but I didn't have to send it back.
Oh, okay. You bought it here in Mexico?
No, I bought it in the States.
In the States. Do you have a name brand that?
I have it with me, but if anybody wants to know what it is, I'll get it out.
Oh yeah, let's take a look at it. Absolutely. To make clear, what we're talking about is a device that can take a regular audio signal. Like I think of the like a Walkman headset, right? Anything you could plug a headset into, you could plug this into, and then broadcast it as Bluetooth.
It's a Taptronics Bluetooth 5.0. I paid a little more to get the 5.0 transmitter and receiver, digital, optical.
I imagine the 5.0 refers to Bluetooth light or low energy, Bluetooth version 5.
You know, they sell the 4 and the 5. The 5 is like $10 more.
Yeah. So from what I understand is those version numbers in Bluetooth, the higher number is supposed to take less electricity.
Oh, I didn't know
Oh,
that.
really?
Yeah. The 5 is supposed to have this balancing with the battery, so that when there is nothing going on, it's supposed to dial way down, and every so often pulse out looking for a signal. And so in
has
that
a
way,
long battery.
it's able to maintain its battery
And
for a
then you
long
can
time.
also plug it in for power supply. You can plug it right into the USB port on your television for a power supply. So it's all, it's real little. It's about this big. It was $40.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So if you had like a patio where you had a stereo already that you wanted to replace with Bluetooth speakers, you could use something like this.
What's
If
the range on
40 feet, they said. I'll have to look again. It goes quite a ways.
it? And you just looked up Amazon America, and it was what? Bluetooth
Taptronics
transmitter?
Bluetooth transmitter.
Okay.
Taptronics Bluetooth transmitter.
5.0. Taptronics is the one that I got, but they had several.
But what's important about this is that you could maybe a record player would be a better example. You might be into vinyl, and you might want to be able to Bluetooth that over to speakers. So you could take this device and plug it into your old record player.
The selling point of this one was the latency between voice on the television and what you heard.
Ah,
And it
good.
is
That's
good.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That was one, I know, I'd read the reviews, and that seemed to be why I picked this one.
Because that's a definite issue with Bluetooth, is that you can get it out of sync with video. When you're using it for things like listening to music, it doesn't matter. But when you're using it for things like watching a movie, it's very important that the audio and video sync correctly.
At least somewhere close.
Yeah. Yes, Chester.
Scott, I have something to share, but it has nothing to do with Computer Club. It's a legal issue that I have experienced that I would like to share.
Okay.
Did it involve a strip
This
mall
looks
in Florida?
scary.
Is it about?
Say again?
Did it involve a strip mall in Florida?
Go ahead, Chester.
First I'll present the problem. And the problem is check your trust. If your trust doesn't say, in my case, Camilla and or Chester. If it says just Camilla and Chester, and one of you dies, you're in a world of hurt.
You go to have and.
You better have and or you're in a world of hurt.
Does that come when they put the trust together?
Yes, and a lot of this is a 1992 trust, and it said the and didn't say the and or. And as our beneficiary, which was also an error at that time, it said the Stone Family Trust as beneficiary, which didn't exist unless both of us died.
Ooh.
Wow.
So the beneficiary was void, and I've been in court now working on this for almost a year.
Oh my.
And let's say, for example, that you do have your children as beneficiary. Okay, then one of you dies, then half of that half goes to the children, and the other half goes to the survivor. But it takes you a lot of money and a lot of court costs to do it. So I strongly recommend that you check your trust and be sure it says and or.
And if it doesn't,
I
what
don't
do you
think
do
we can
about it?
change
Then you need to give it an attorney.
Yeah,
You do what?
Wow.
an attorney.
Get
After my
it
husband
fixed.
died, it took me
True, that's
3
right.
years
And that's
To
probably
sort out
$3,000.
the
to
trust?
sort it out. Yeah.
Beg pardon?
And
And
that's
part of the
probably
problem was their name.
$3,000.
Right.
Well,
Actually,
I
you'd think that would
understand-
work in your benefit.
This
I'm
is
not a
the-
Raymond, you know.
My understanding is that if you have a problem and you have to take this to court, the fee, attorney's fees, is 10% of the sale price.
Oh. That's ridiculous.
Now, I negotiated away from that because they already had all of my information.
Wow.
Hopefully, mine is going to be resolved on April the 23rd,
When is when?
and that's been almost a year. since I
Back,
sold the house.
back on tech stuff,
Well,
I would like to ask you, if you use Bluetooth and you take it to your patio,
yes.
do you have to go back inside to adjust it and get something different?
Well, the kind of a device that we were just talking about, you would.
Yes.
Yes.
So why not just get an Echo that you can control right there with you?
Well, like her use case is a TV that doesn't have Bluetooth. So she wants to have audio over here and the TV's over there, which is very easy to do with Bluetooth, but the TV doesn't support Bluetooth.
Sure.
But then you gotta go inside to adjust it.
No,
She is
it's
inside.
in this case
On the
it's
speaker.
yeah.
The speaker has the volume adjustment.
But
Yeah.
you want to change the music,
Yeah, I know.
then you have
Bob,
to
we're
do that.
yeah. In this case example, we're talking about a TV set in the same room, so she'd be with it with a remote control. But like my example of like a record player, absolutely, you'd have to go to the record player to make any changes.
It can also be a receiver, but I.
Cars kept passing us on the line.
Yeah.
Well, did it come with a little remote control for the volume, or you have to turn
It's
the
on,
volume?
no, the volume is on the speaker that it transmits to.
I got a question just about the name. Is it Dowtronics? T-A-O?
T.
Blue bus
Uh,
board.
You probably don't need
I think it's pronounced Dowtronics.
T-A-O.
Yeah.
Tau.
Tau.
T-A-O.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Is that the one you were talking about?
Mine, I can sit there and I have an
It
obstacle
was a
feed.
specific thing I was doing. It does a whole lot of other things that it says it'll do, but I didn't try any of that.
Well, it seems like a good price for.
Left it sent out.
Yeah, I thought it was real little. You don't pick up any signals. You plug it, you don't have to set a power cord if you plug it into your TV.
What she mentions Loopville
It's
on
the
there.
USB on the TV for power, or else you could plug it into a power supply.
She mentions Loopville. Is that-
Mine has a optical feed, and
Oh.
I think hers does too. But the sound is off.
It's
It's optical
I-
feed to that, and then it's Bluetooth to my.
Different name totally.
but
hearing aids.
that's the Bluetooth problem is that synchronizing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
And it can't be rectified.
Blamed it on him.
We can't fix it.
Like it would have to be a function in either the sound system that's providing the sound or the headsets that are receiving it. You'd have to be able to stagger it. I know that in my TV set I have a Samsung with built-in Bluetooth, and I am able to adjust the delay back or forwards for
The
the
video or the audio delay?
yeah,
The audio.
the audio delay. I can adjust it up or down to.
Talking about, I can't hear.
We were just talking about the delay in Bluetooth when you're watching video, and I was just commenting that I have a Samsung TV that if I'm remembering this right, I can set that delay.
Sync it.
Yeah, to sync it up better and move it off a hair. Yeah.
you can turn the volume on the TV all the way down
Off.
and still
Mute it.
get it.
Yeah.
So, 11 o'clock at night, I've got the doors and windows wide open. I turn it down to nothing, and I can sit there and watch TV and not disturb anybody.
Or transmit to headphones if you want.
Well, and my mother suffers from the same problem, and so she's come up with the same solution. She's got a Bluetooth speaker she just puts up by her head while she's watching TV.
I have a question. Give my
It's the answer about the border.
And that is, I'm getting email from people, and it used to work, if they have a link, that I could pick up the link. And it's like my computer has a mind of its own, and now I can't get it. What, is it a setting, or what is it? For security, is there a security setting that doesn't allow me to get the link?
Linda, do you understand what Bob's talking about?
It's in the email.
It's in the email.
Yes, you have to go in the email settings and get to where it says that you'll, it says,
Is this a Gmail account?
No, Hotmail.
It's a Hotmail
it's
account.
probably in the settings that says about attachments. It says about attachments.
Okay.
You can accept I don't remember the word,
there anyway.
but it's attachments.
Thank you.
Where's Louisville?
Setting has to-
That's right. When you're in Santa Ana, you go west instead of straight, instead of north.
Is it that you can't open the links? I'm having trouble understanding the
I can't
problem.
open it, yes.
So you try and click on a link in email, and it won't open it up. It is definitely a security issue.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to fix it.
Phoenix before you find
Well,
it.
just go into
I
the
don't either.
settings
I will try to
and
do
look
that.
for that, because there is a box. I'm sure it's probably just like Gmail where you can
Yeah.
get attachments or no
Is it
attachments.
anybody else using Hotmail understand how to make sure the links will open if you click on? I'm not promoting the idea of clicking on links in email, but if you know what you're doing, that's an easy system. And I mean, it's been blocked because of security. It's because it's like slapping your hand, going, hey, that's the easiest way to infect your computer is some random link. But if you know what you're doing, maybe if you're aware of what you're getting, and I have a lot of trouble promoting it as a good idea. I like the idea of copying and pasting the link, because at the very least you can see the link that's come to you in email, and what you're seeing is what you're getting. And then you can take that and paste it into a browser. That would be a much more secure way to deal with links in your email. But I also understand, and I do it myself, there are some things that are just easier to click from email. And hotmail.com is where you're doing this, is not allowing Bob to click on links any longer. I'll write it down, because I should know how to turn that off and on, and I just don't know what it is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Gary.
Just recently, I signed up to have my CFE bill sent electronically to
Okay.
my email account. And the first one I got was the last bill. And my neighbor has a printer and I don't, so she asked me to send it to her so she could print it and give it to somebody who's gonna pay the bill.
Okay.
It wouldn't send it. It was in my sent mail, but it never got to her.
I'd look for an error message somewhere.
It wasn't anything, it was just, it went, it said sent, you know, when I went to the sent file, it was there.
You know what? Maybe if you didn't, yeah, it might have gone into her junk mail file.
It's her fault.
Possibly.
Yeah. You
Sometimes it takes a day or two.
Oh, this was a week, more than a week ago.
you should, yeah, and actually you shouldn't be thinking of email taking a day or two. You should be thinking of email as taking a maximum of 5 to 10 minutes.
Well, there is one part of it that confused me a bit. There was a couple of places where you could click to go somewhere else, to go to a different page. And I'm wondering if they were the reason why it didn't transfer, because it didn't take those links.
When you've got.
Well, hold on, Chester. You looked in your sent messages and you saw a
It
copy.
was there as if I sent it.
See, I suspect everything worked the way it was supposed to, and there's something going on in her email. It's been blocked or it's been stuck in junk mail. The problem with both those scenarios is that she gets no notification, and you get no notification.
You guys look in junk mail to know whether that's true or not.
That's right. She has to manually go looking for it to see if that's been the case.
Okay,
Does she
you're
need
going-
the
you're
bill to
going-
pay it?
No, she has a guy who pays her bills, and I just said, well, why don't you do mine too?
So can't you just email her and say, this is how much I owe? and
Oh, I
this is
can,
what
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know?"
but she wanted a copy of the bill so she could hand it off to the other guy.
You have an account with the electric company, as I do, and you go in and you get your bill. Do you download that as a PDF or a JPEG file?
I didn't
That's
do
what-
either, I
yeah,
just looked at it.
that's the-
Why don't you just download that as a JPEG or PDF file and send that to her?
I didn't try that.
What other exciting things you got
That's
today?
complicated.
Yeah, let's go somewhere else.
I don't do
What kind of things do you have in your house?
All right, I got a list of stuff.
Yeah.
All right. They might be a lot of one-offs, but we did a whole thing a couple weeks ago on junk mail calls, robocalls in Mexico. And I noticed that just last week the FTC has shut down 4 major robocall groups responsible for billions of illegal robocalls. All right. So the unfortunate thing is, I was listening to this, and I was listening to a conversation that was based on this, as some tech journalists were just speculating how, and they had the insight of an insider who was in the robocall game legitimately. Apparently, they run in the same circles as the groups that you hire to give you wake-up calls and reminders and very legitimate call services. What this insider is saying is that this is a very small industry. I mean, a very small industry is responsible for all of this, and so they all know each other. And his insight was that these companies, they work under shell companies that they will not be able to pay the fines that are levied against them. They will put the company asleep or disband it immediately, and then start up business within a week or two later. So for as much as been involved in this, I mean, they're supposed to get millions of dollars in fines. They're supposed to be banned from making any of these kinds of calls again or having anything to do with telemarketing. But what this insider is saying is, oh yeah, they're all prepared for that. That's part of doing business. So I thought probably the most insightful thing was these calls are illegal. Didn't realize that until this article. That there's a whole slew. I mean, besides the fraudulent calls, the ones where they're selling you insurance that doesn't exist, there are calls from support groups that you don't belong to. They're calls from the IRS. Those are obviously illegal. But then there's a whole section of these calls in general that are just illegal and shouldn't be
Robo
happening.
stands for what? Robot?
Yeah, robot.
Robot?
Yeah, and this is just that systematic calling of numbers on lists and trying to get people to buy services.
I've been getting robo text messages. In fact, I just got 2 while I was sitting here.
Yeah.
From, you don't know who they're from.
I just blocked the number, but it comes through as a text.
I get texts and calls from my cell phone provider, Telcel.
Yeah,
And-
I do too, and they're
This
even
was
my
not, this was a,
provider.
I probably can't look at it now, but, because I deleted them, but yeah,
Well,
they
and
were
I've
actually
just
a
gotten
text.
so that I block them. I just block them all. So I don't care if Telmex is or Telcel's trying to tell me that a nuclear weapon's coming. It's probably a blocked message at this point because I don't trust anything they have to tell me. Anyway, I thought you guys might find that interesting. I'll put a link to that on the website.
I must have called her.
How do you? Oh, well, actually, it depends on your cell phone and its software. What I found consistently works in the Amazon side is if there's the ability to block it to begin with, then you can look at your history of calls. You can go into the information about that particular call, and it'll give you options like add it to a contact. In those options, you'll find an option to block this number, and you
It's the
just
same
click on that.
With
Is that
my
true also
iPhone.
for a
The
computer?
iPhone works that way as well.
Is that
My
true for a
Android, too.
computer as well?
No, in this case, we're talking about just cell phones.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
you're talking about like Skype calls? Because Skype does have a block feature on it.
You're talking about emails?
Yeah, I blocked so many, I've thousands, and I'm still getting the same ones, the same titles.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you're talking about email, and actually it'll happen this way too, is they've developed a whole side industry of figuring out how to get around those blocks. And email's like the worst offender of that kind of stuff. But we'll see it with blocked calls. I mean, we already do, because what I do for Telcel, because they call me from a dozen different phone numbers all out of Hermosillo. And so I created a contact called Telcel Bullshit, and then I just saved every one of their numbers under that one contact, and then I blocked that one contact.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's good.
And so I'm constantly seeing that I've blocked a call from Telcel Bullshit.
I get Telcel calls too, but I don't understand the word, so I just hang up.
Yeah, it's frustrating to live in a world where they don't understand their market enough to tailor it to you, but they'll inundate you with it. I mean, they're just,
Well, that's
it's,
a cheap way.
yeah, it's, I like the intelligent way would be, hey, it's a 49-year-old man from the United States living in Mexico. Maybe I should call him in English, or at least send him a recorded English message. Or take him off the list, that's right. Not going to buy anything. I've told representatives I wouldn't buy $10 for $5 at this point. I just want you to go away and stop calling me.
Good response.
You couldn't sell me anything at this point. You've poisoned the well.
There's a
I
note-
have something.
Oh, Linda, go ahead.
Okay, well, and I brought this up before many times. I've been trying to find something so that I can get internet when I'm in Guayabitos. Okay, well, TP-Link has a Ethernet wireless router that you can use with hotspots. And they have all kinds of different things that you can use with hotspots. And it will also take, you set it up at home first. And then you go down there and it will take hotspots passwords.
Okay,
So
I think
for
what you're
instance-
trying to say is that this device can do a wireless bridge.
Correct,
It's a router in your house,
correct,
and you get your internet wirelessly.
correct.
And that can be a standard consumer Wi-Fi connection.
But the problem that I've had is when I found out, I did not know after 5 years going down there, he is a hotspot.
Right.
He's not a, I don't know what the word you
Host.
use it. But it's a hotspot, so therefore,
Oh, maybe maybe his internet's being provided wirelessly or something. And
they're considered a hotspot, and I went in there and I looked up all this, and yes, it's cheaper for them to put in hotspots.
Yeah, so they've probably contracted out to a third party.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he came into the room this time and he told me, well, you can't do this and you can't do this. So I've been looking around and all of a sudden I ran into this TP-Link, and it's a router that you can use for hotspots, if you're in a restaurant.
This sounds like an awesome piece of equipment.
Yeah, and it's only $39.
CPS?
Well, send me the link on that one, because to me that's great equipment. In fact, I typically, when I travel with 2 routers with me, because I use one as a wireless bridge to connect to a second one for my local area network. And I do this for security reasons, but also for convenience, because the network I carry around with me is pre-configured. So everything I have is ready to connect to it.
Wait, so you wouldn't need this? And
Well,
it's real small.
I could replace both those devices with that one device, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it's real small. And I thought, so there's 2
Now-
models, but this one, the other model was only an N300. So this model is, has 2 and 5 in it. So it's a little bit more sophisticated than the first model.
I totally want to see these models, but I want to add 2 more cents to this. What you're describing in your situation in Guayabitos sounds very similar to the timeshare that we go for Christmas up in Pinetop. And what I discovered the last time we were up there is their third party that's providing hotspots is allocating bandwidth based on MAC addresses. And so what that means in a nutshell is that you will be allocated, and this is there, I don't know about where you are, but it sounds like a very similar situation. It's very possible to limit the amount of bandwidth to your bridge, which means anything connected to it has that one limitation. Whereas the individual devices connected to the hotspots that are provided by the third party would have their own unique bandwidth limitation. So that's speed and capacity. And it's because this is how these third parties operate, is they don't want to give you any more internet than they have to. And so if you hook a bridge up, it will be considered, and it took me a while to figure this out, but it will be considered as being the one device, even though you might have a dozen devices behind it. So those dozen devices get limited to that one set of bandwidth. Whereas if those a dozen devices had been connected individually to the third party, each one would have its own bandwidth. Does that make sense? You follow what I mean?
Sort of.
Yeah. So, well, let's say it like this then. Maybe this is a better real world example. If you connected all your devices to your bridge,
Okay,
and a big Windows update comes out,
yeah.
and 2 of your computers are chugging down that update, then you may not be able to use your streaming TV or make phone calls because that update has exceeded the amount of bandwidth available from your third party to your specific connection. Whereas if you had taken those computers that were doing updates and just hooked them straight to the third party, each one of the devices has that bandwidth. So it doesn't affect your streaming. You follow what I mean? It's doing an update from Windows. It doesn't cut into the bandwidth of this other device that's connected directly up to the third party as well.
Is there a similar problem with digital, like fiber optic, or?
Well, what I'm describing is a way I've seen this third-party business operate in hotels and timeshares, where if you use the bridge is more secure and more convenient, and so it's an ideal way to do internet. But because of the way the third party is managing the amount of internet available, they are allocating a bandwidth to each device that goes on their network.
What is the point of doing that? Are they just saving money
Yeah.
from doing it? Or?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
I just got a bill from my TELUS carrier in Canada, which is fiber optic, which they just put in the whole town.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 250 megabytes up and down when they installed it. It's now 300.
Yeah.
And there doesn't seem to be any restriction for anybody else who's on fiber optic. So why is that? Why am I able to get that kind of speed and here they are so chintzy with DSL?
First of all, I appreciate your very creative brag and wish we had those kinds of speeds here. I have never worked in 200 megabits a second, so I'm very jealous.
Oh, it'll surprise you and please you.
But also, it really depends on the market. Like in Pine Top, which I'm describing, and I suspect it's a similar kind of situation where Linda is that internet is scarce, and it costs a lot to bring it to certain areas. And in this case, in Pine Top, it's up to the mountain where this resort is. And so they have just hired that out to a third party, and they just provide access points. And the resort has no say in how that happens. The third party could bring it by satellite, they could bring it by phone wire. It's whatever is appropriate for the environment they're in.
Well, some people have fiber optic here.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of them. And he doesn't have any speed problems. It doesn't go up and down depending on what his neighbor's doing.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't, but it all depends on infrastructure.
And also whether they're throttling you.
Well, and they will, and that's what we're actually talking about. That's the word I should have used for the situation, is that you get throttled.
If you're using a lot, they'll knock you down.
Right. I mean, they have already set what your limit is. Yeah, good. Throttled, they've set how much limit there is. So Linda might end up doing herself a disservice by using a bridge because it's limited for the one device. Whereas you could have multiple devices connected to the third party, and each one would have its own set limit.
I was only wanted to use it. I was going to set just basically what they're telling you to do is set it up on your laptop, so that I can put Netflix on the TV.
Right.
Because the smart TV doesn't work down there. You can't.
Well, and if you used it,
when you use smart TV down there,
I'm
it's asking you for a password from the hotel.
Sure.
You can't give them the password.
Right.
So you can't set up the internet on the smart TV there.
Well, this should work for that. And I would, if I got one of these devices, I'd immediately try it out exactly the way that you're thinking you can use it. Like you'd have all your devices connected to it and have that be your internet connection, Wi-Fi. But then if you start getting bandwidth issues, then you might discover this problem I discovered in Pine Top, is that these service providers will limit, and I couldn't figure out why I was having, and the resort didn't take any response, but I actually started calling the third party to find out what's going on, and they just explained the whole thing to me, is that they limit bandwidth per device, and so your phone connected to that third party hotspot has its own set of internet that it can use, and your laptop has another set of internet that it can use, and your smart TV has another set of internet that can be used. When you use the bridge, you only have that one set, and so all your devices are sucking off of that one set.
All right, what email should I send this to?
Scott@internationalcs.net. Or we're in Computer Club. You could send it to scott@scclub.org.
Speaking of throttle,
internationalcs.net. Go ahead, Mike.
Speaking of throttling, the last several weeks, I've been getting a 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Reduction in my download speed again.
Tell us.
Getting that?
With Infinitum, are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, mine has been awful in the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's been like 1.
Scott.
From like 4 to 7 mostly.
Yeah.
International.
Yeah, we live pretty
C
close
as in
to
computers,
Five is the
S as in
fastest I've ever
solutions,
Yeah, I
.net.
don't have near that. 3, if I'm lucky.
That's homework time. The kids are.
This
home.
is great. We're like 40 minutes into it, and I realized I wasn't streaming.
Okay.
So we could have spoken.
Intro, anything, yeah.
Spoken free list. We
Now
could
you
have gone
tell
into
people
a
we're
rant.
streaming too that,
Hey, oh.
now that we've been talking about them.
Right. We're done talking about people, so now we can stream.
Hey,
New
Linda,
subject, new subject.
Linda, what's the model number on that thing?
Back into do.
And who'd you get it from?
I just sent it to you, hold on.
I'm looking for it right now.
You ahead of the schedule.
Well, we could talk about Bitcoin.
No.
No. $5,000. I read that yesterday.
$5,000 for what?
The value of Bitcoin now.
Oh.
What other
From
subjects do you
30,000?
have?
Yeah.
All right, what else do I got? Let's
it
check
real.
the list here. Well, you know what we missed talking about last week was the Apple announcement.
Yes. Let's talk about
Right.
it on DirecTV delayed.
There was a DirecTV announcement?
You don't have to
Well,
pay
we
me
got a
cash.
message on the bottom of our screen last night, but I
Oh,
couldn't
what?
read it. It was so small.
Oh.
Well,
DirecTV
the last
computer.
the last I heard about DirecTV, somebody in here told us that they have extended it for one more year.
Thank you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
They've
Yeah.
extended what?
The ability to
Standard
use
broadcast.
satellite signals for one more
Standard
year.
broadcast.
Do they really think that all of the
Standard.
people
What's that,
are
Newegg?
going to be able
Linda?
to access
No. Newegg?
satellites to watch TV?
N-U-E-G-G.
I-
They're like delusional.
Right? Right? Well,
Delusional.
not to mention that the jump from satellite to streaming is technologically challenging enough for you to go out and comparatively shop for other services. So, I mean, the moment that they're saying you can't use that satellite dish anymore, they may lose a customer.
They'll go to cable.
Well, they would lose a customer for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking even if it was practical
Thank
to
you.
go to streaming, you'd be like, well, my friends have been all talking about Fire TV, or they've been
Right.
talking
Apple
about
TV.
the Roku. Why would I do this through DirecTV? I'm pissed off at them to begin with. They just cut off my service.
Exactly. They're delusional. They
Yeah.
aren't thinking for the majority of their customers what that would entail. Are they going to have an individual trainer come out to everyone? No. No, they
What's the
aren't.
question?
It would work if their boxes could immediately be streaming. If you could just disconnect the cable to the
Right.
satellite dish and it's immediately. So I mean, because in the past somebody set it up to your Wi-Fi network and
If you had good Wi-Fi, but how about the millions of people that have marginal
yeah,
Wi-Fi?
yeah, it's
not
just
going to work.
it's not going to work. I tend to agree.
I don't know what the question is.
Oh, this is about DirecTV's change from satellite to streaming.
To internet.
Yeah, to internet streaming from satellite, and how that.
That's where it's going ultimately.
But mostly they've got a huge population of people that are in rural areas or motor homes. They've got all these bandwidth constrained customers, and if you're going to make them change, they're going to find another solution.
I have no illusion that DirecTV is going to get out of the satellite business.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just too important. But they're going to have both because they're now owned by AT&T.
At least for a while.
Yeah, and they're
And you have, in the States, almost everyone there, of course, has high definition antennas. I mean, that's all they have anymore.
I don't.
The problem
Right.
is just down here.
I
And down
own
here in
smart
motorhomes
TV.
where you have standard broadcast.
well, what really prompted this discussion is I was going to mention the Apple
Yeah.
That's all right.
announcement that happened last week. And you remember the week before, I had mentioned that they were going to have a presentation on the 25th, and it was going to be rather unusual. It was going to be more like an HBO event than it would be a tech presentation, because they had announced all their new products through tweets and news articles coming up to the press. So we got new Macintoshes, we've got new iPads, we've got new wireless earbuds. We got this whole slew of products that would normally be in a presentation, and they did all that before doing the presentation.
But now we also have an Apple credit card.
Well, this is part of the presentation.
I
So
know.
what they reserved the presentation for was TV gaming, and credit card. That's what it was all about. And all of it's somewhat interesting. The gaming's probably the least interesting because they're only games right now. They're a huge game platform for mobile games. So like they're huge for this kind of gaming. But bringing it to a TV set in front of people there isn't a big demand for that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the gaming. They are talking about subscription gaming service where you would get premium games at a monthly price, and it would be disassociated with internet. So these are games you could use offline. A lot of games right now you have to be connected to the internet to use. They would not be data collected by these games, so you would be. In fact, that was their premise on all of this. I said those three things. That it was all based in individual privacy and security. So the TV offerings, their new TV app, they really pushed how the choicing, the artificial intelligence that's choosing and making selections for you are all client side, happening in the palm of your hand or happening in your device hooked to the TV set. Your watching habits are not being broadcasted back to servers to make decisions like is happening with Netflix or with Google. Your watching habits are being tracked and they're being put in a database, and that database is being analyzed to figure out what to provide you with next. Right? It seems like a frivolous thing to be concerned about, but we are in this mode right now where everything is being tracked right down to your TV watching habits, and Apple is just trying to re-emphasize how they're trying to build this paradigm where that's not the way things happen, where the decision making is happening intelligently, but it's happening at your command through your device in your database, and it's not happening out there on the cloud by some company's demand in some grand company database. So that was.
I think Disney's next.
Disney's the next to release. Well, what's interesting is Apple had a whole bunch of famous people on stage. They didn't have one clip of what shows they were going to be making, but they were announcing a TV network. They were announcing a Netflix competitor, and Chester's right. Disney will be the next one that will be offering. Will be announcing. What was interesting also is nothing is now except the news app, which was another piece of this. Is they announced a new news app that you can subscribe to monthly. All of this is monthly services.
And I think there was a question on pricing. But
yeah, there's no pricing,
No pricing.
and everything's third quarter this year.
yeah.
Right, so I'm not quite sure what we were watching because it was one of the most vaporware things I've ever watched. Like, thank God they announced the equipment ahead of time and was immediately available, because they actually created stuff and put it out in the market. This whole presentation was about stuff they're planning on creating, and they're not quite sure what you're going to pay for it yet. And they're not quite sure exactly when it's going to come out.
Oh, what's going to be in it?
Right, yeah, we don't know. The news app was ready the next day.
Yes,
That's a good sales pitch.
Yeah.
It is.
DirecTV through AT&T now I think has 4 packages that you can choose.
For me, what I thought was most significant is they announced that the Apple TV app would be available on equipment that wasn't Apple TV.
Yeah.
So it used to be if you wanted to take advantage of Apple TV, you had to have an Apple TV device. The device is 3 times more expensive than a basic Roku and does less, it can accomplish less tasks. But it works really great if you live in a whole Apple environment where you've got stuff on your tablet, on your phone, on your laptop. That all flows together.
And my credit card.
And it's connected to your credit card. That device works really well. But for the rest of us, a Roku works really well, or a Fire TV works. Yeah, Fire Stick works really well, or for some of the more adventurous. Just some generic Chinese Android TV works just well. They announced that they would have an app for the Fire TV and for the Roku. In my mind, if they're going to have an app for Fire TV, that means any Android TV is probably getting an Apple TV app. Because the Fire TV is based on Android. So whether it's sanctioned or anointed by Apple or not, I suspect it's going to be out there available. I mean, just the fact that it would be in the Amazon store for download tells me it should be available to any Android device. I suspect that they announced it as a Fire TV and a Roku application. Now, Roku is a completely different platform, so what they're committing to is developers in those three areas. They're committing to developers in Roku, they're committing to developers in Fire TV, Android, and in their current platform.
I think they have a deal with Samsung.
Well, they didn't. Well, let me get to that in a moment. Well, actually, yeah, you're absolutely right. They have a deal with Samsung as well to bring it to their TV sets, and so that's the only distinction from what I'm saying is that the other three are set-top boxes, but they've got a deal with Samsung to bring an app to that as well. So I can't help but think you know what makes Samsung different is they're using a different operating system. They've got so that is important because they've committed developers to Samsung's odd operating system. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's Tizen. So they've committed developers to Tizen.
But I think they're going back.
To Android, because Tizen sucks.
It does.
It does
One
suck.
TV with it,
Yeah.
one TV without it.
Yeah, it does suck. Samsung forever has tried to do the same thing and failed. They've done a great job in consumer electronics, but when it comes to software, they keep missing. They can't hit the bar. So people get a Samsung device and immediately shut off all the Samsung stuff and download Google stuff to use their device. So I think that's very significant. It's a point that Apple is making a pivot. They're going into services. They're getting away from hardware. They want their software everywhere, so they don't have to worry about providing you with the device that runs their services.
What was the Microsoft operating system immediately preceding XP?
It was Windows Vista.
Vista.
Yeah, it was Windows Vista. That was a horrible, disaster. On this note, I went and looked at some consumer comparisons between the products that are out there. We're going to have Apple TV on these individual devices, so you no longer have to pay $150 or $200 for an Apple TV. You can buy a $40 device or an $80 device and get access to your Apple content. There's a great article from TechRadar that compares the Apple TV, the Amazon Fire Stick, the Roku, and the Chromecast. And just to sum it up, they had a number of different things they were looking at, being price conscious, features available, content available. The Roku won in their comparison. The Chromecast lost, mostly because it's a pain in the ass to set up and it's not easy to run. The only thing that it won on is cost because it's really cheap, so it's easily available as far as price goes. So I'll post that on the website if you guys want to look at that. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
What's the name of that? Would you say it again?
The review?
Yeah.
I got it off TechRadar.
TechRadar.
Yeah. And I'll post it on our website so you guys can take a look at it if you want. But I think what this means is if you're into Apple, you've done Apple stuff, you've bought Apple content, immediately you've got a lot more options for enjoying it. You can be looking at a Fire Stick. Fire Stick costs $49, and you'll be able to. They've already had Apple Music on the Echo devices, so if you belong to the subscription service of music, you can bring that across to smart speaker. It doesn't have to be an Apple smart. In fact, they've been downplaying the Apple smart speaker. You're not seeing announcements or updates for it at the moment, and so That's the way Microsoft has gone. Microsoft has stopped all the Cortana stuff and developed a Cortana app for Alexa. So you can use Alexa to pull up anything you might have been pulling up with Cortana before.
St. Carlos website is again what?
Our computer club website, scclub.org. And I actually have an announcement about that. If you've been looking at it, it'll look slightly different because I finally isolated it as its own proper site. Before it was hanging off of a subdirectory of my business website, but now I've isolated it into its own unique entity. So it supports HTTPS. You can do things like type youtube.scclub.org and go directly to the YouTube channel without any errors. So it'll look it looks a little bit more professional in all that regard. Should just be faster, easier to find, easier to use.
Is your smartphone presentation on there? Yep.
Yes, that's the other thing is last week I made sure that the smartphone presentation is available, and you can find links to it from the website,
Great.
from the YouTube channel.
So who do you have your website with, yourself?
Oh, right now I have my website with DreamHost. Yeah. I am actually really enjoying... DreamHost is actually what gave me the idea to move it into its own unique server, because they made it so easy for me to have unlimited space and host as many domain names as I wanted and host as many servers as I wanted. I was able to, but before that stuff used to cost me. Now it's all falling under one price tag that I've already committed to. So I'm like, wow, I can actually set up the Computer Club's website as its own proper server. Whereas before it just worked off of a leg of my server.
So you put on the seminar
Yep.
you had here for phones, right?
Yes. Yeah, so it's available. If you look at the website, I also have distinguished YouTube videos, so you can look at all the YouTube videos that are available. And the podcasts, I've got a distinction there for special guests. So you can look at a list of everyone that we've listened to in the past for special, like Marco Cruz that does the solar things, the Horizon that did the security. So you can find that really easy on the website. So yeah, just wanted to mention that. I do have more topics.
We were talking about DirecTV a minute ago.
Yeah.
And DirecTV is going to their new thing and raise the price $10. And not only that, but they're giving less program content
So they raised it for the streamers or for the satellite?
for the streamers.
Wow, that's
Unbelievable.
they're just like shooting themselves in the foot.
Sure are.
I mean, they could have at least gone the route of Netflix, where the DVDs were a premium service, but streaming was cheaper.
Radiosity offers everything DirecTV offers and more, and it's $15 a month
Yes.
if you buy it
Radiosity.
yourself. Radiosity.
But the legitimacy of Radiosity is in question at any moment.
Well, yes.
And there-
Look where we live.
there's a
Come on.
Right.
recording problem.
Yeah, you can't record.
You can't record it. That
Well-
makes me off.
Well, there's a lot of those little things, like we do this toss up because if you had a genuinely legitimate service, you have a program guide that you can schedule recording by. You can keep an inventory of things that you've watched in the past. They just all these little details that combat using a questionable service. But I think that's the right way to do it. I think the idea is that you don't go after people using Radiosity or the service itself. You build a service that people feel like paying for. It's like, I want to be able to look at what's going to be on TV next week on my phone while I'm sitting at the doctor's office and check off all the things that I want to make sure get recorded in case I miss them. And you can't do that with something like a Radiosity or using Kodi, whereas a service like DirecTV
But
could
you
offer
could
that.
Click whatever it is you're looking for. You could Google that, find out what time it's on.
That's right.
And Radiosity does have a guide that day. I don't
Yeah.
know how far it goes. I've never checked it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to get into comparing and contrasting any of these services because we could go on for hours talking about
And I could lose it at any time, too.
Well, and I think that's what legitimate services have to be focusing on, is they have to be focusing on creating such a package. Like, I think Amazon's doing a great job of doing that. I think Amazon, I pay for Prime, whether I watch movies or not, right? But all of a sudden I got more movies and more TV and more music.
Mexican Prime you paid for?
I pay for Mexican Prime as well, not for movies, but look at all these movies I got now.
I paid for Mexican Prime and couldn't get any movies, so I just canceled my.
Oh my
deal.
God, we get all,
Yeah.
almost
I
all the
just couldn't.
movies.
Prime is my favorite streaming service right now.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Mexican Prime.
It is awesome, as well as shipping, as well as the music that you get through it.
But
It's
you have to have Mexican Prime in order to get
Yeah.
American Prime
No,
down
you
here?
can't.
so
go
it's
to Prime.
it's
You- yeah,
it's
you
a bit
can with the-
confusing
I get it was
because
internet.
as an American with an American Prime account, there is a subsection of their catalog that is considered international access. And there is, I haven't looked at it in a while, but there's a link you can go to and it'll show you the whole catalog that's available to you. Well, internationally, that's been made.
You can get Miss Maisel's one of them you can get.
Yeah, okay.
Pretty funny comic.
Well, it's
Yeah.
on Mexican Prime right now,
What's that?
Measles.
Oh yeah. But what we're talking, there is a classification in Amazon that any country you go to, you're going to be able to get that subclass of content. They have made that content. This has happened in the last 2 years.
How do you get on? How do you find that?
Well, I would Google it now. I haven't looked at it in a while, but basically you just get on Amazon.
Yeah.
And you'll see a list of content that's available to you internationally. But if you wanted to look at it on a web page, if you wanted to see it documented, there's a link they've got that you can go and look at the catalog.
And to be in English.
Yeah.
Do you pay?
Okay, Mike, what do you got?
One of the economic things that I just have not been able to figure out is when you go on Radio City, I call it, and Amazon or Netflix, and you see these 10,000 movies that you wouldn't watch for 1 minute.
Right.
How do they get made and how do they make any money? I mean, movie sets cost money. They never release them in theaters.
Investors.
How much do these networks and Amazons pay to make those and pay the actors? I just can't understand.
There's a market. There's a market.
There is definitely a market. It's because we've moved from a very specific kind of content that makes lots of money, like blockbusters, to very niche contents that each one has its own
Each
separate.
one of those things has 37 stalker things.
I don't know what that
You know,
means.
Horror flicks with nobody in it that you ever heard of as an actor.
Wait. Well, you know what I think of when I hear you talk like this is, my wife and I always have this. We're both sci-fi fans. I've mentioned before I'm a sci-fi fan, but we're different kinds of sci-fi fans. I often joke that I watch all this bad sci-fi, so she gets to watch good sci-fi, right? Because these ideas have to come from somewhere, right? You got to build writers from somewhere. You got to come up with concepts, and so there's this whole B film market of people like me that really enjoy bad sci-fi.
So writers and actors must get like $2,000 or something like that.
Right, these by the seat of their pants.
You know,
Kinda-
some of the Netflix originals are good.
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
10% are great.
Yeah.
But those other stream of stuff, we just released Radio City this weekend. Released like 13 movies. Christ, I wouldn't click on one of them. You know, and I like film. I mean, but they
Yeah.
all just, who's in it? Nobody.
Yeah, you know what? Compare and contrast that to the younger generation, like I have an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old,
Yeah.
and they don't turn on the TV set for anything.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so involved in 5-minute clips on YouTube.
Yeah.
We have to force them to sit down and watch a movie with us. We you know what? We're taking your phones away. We know as a family we're going to enjoy this show together. So sit down, damn it.
Scott, do you pay annually? I've noticed with Amazon, it's 50% more
Yeah,
if
they
you
raised the
pay
price.
by the month.
By the month. I've never done anything but annual payments.
Yeah, but they raised the
Really?
annual
Yeah.
payment
going
quite a
up.
bit.
Yeah, but I mean, this is where I say they're doing the right thing. My catalog has gotten only bigger. My experience has only been easier. They've integrated IMDb into their apps. What that means is that I can be watching a movie, pause it, see all the actors that are in the movie. I can go research the actor right from that experience. I can find all the other movies that I have access to. I mean, it's just gotten better and better and better. So, yeah, they just take my money and I don't even notice.
Are you paying for both, US
Mhm.
and Mexico?
Yeah. Yeah. And the primary reason is shipping. And this is an amazing bonus that's in Prime Music through the Echo speaker. I hate to give that up. Yuya uses it every day. It's
You could retire if you didn't have all these costs every month.
You wish.
But then you'd be
Something-
home all day. You don't
That
want
was
to do
mean.
that.
Go ahead, Irving. You got something other than a smart ass remark, I'm sure.
Prime, you're talking about Prime.
Prime?
I installed Smart DNS, or whatever it is, and it opened up all of the programming from Netflix
And Prime.
and Prime.
Yeah.
But it cuts itself off during the day on occasion, so I have to reboot it to get my address back in.
Oh, interesting.
Is there a way to avoid it cutting itself off, or automatically have it reboot it so I can keep it?
Have you been having this problem, Maggie? At some point while you're using Smart DNS, does it just stop working?
Yeah.
Yeah? And
But what I do, I go into my settings I'm using Radiosity, obviously. I go into settings and I switch from whatever I have hooked up, ASUS or Infinitum. I switch, once it connects, I switch back, and then it's fine. I have no idea why it's doing that.
that's interesting.
But it happens every
It doesn't
day,
do
at
it on
least one-
Netflix, it only does it on Prime.
Only doesn't. See, now, what I understand about the technology you're using with Smart DNS, and just quick background, what you're doing is you're setting your DNS lookup to a specific server that Smart DNS has control over. That means all your DNS requests, every time you type in an address like Fox.com or CNN.com, it goes to Smart DNS servers and looks it up. And it says whether it's their responsibility or not. And what they've done is they've grabbed the responsibility for Netflix and Hulu and Amazon. So those specific addresses, they don't get forwarded on to what would be the typical server. They stay there at Smart DNS, and it points to a server at Smart DNS that is giving access to that feed from Amazon or that feed from Netflix or Hulu. It's called a proxy server. So when you go to Netflix using Smart DNS, you're actually going to Smart DNS, and then you're being put on a Netflix proxy. And that computer in Smart DNS is required to make your connection to Netflix. This is a lot different than going straight to Netflix. Netflix has done a great job of distributing their servers all over the world so that their customers can have the best Netflix experience they can. And what that means is there's boxes of Netflix sitting in Telmex offices so that those movies are as close to you as they can be. When you use Smart DNS, they're not. They're over in Florida, or they're over in wherever Smart DNS has routed your proxy traffic. So with that in mind, you can imagine that link could get disrupted in some way.
Is there a fix?
I don't think so. I think the only fix is what you're doing already, is setting it up again, and that's essentially what Maggie's doing when she disconnects and
Just go back
reconnects.
Here's
I
my
wonder if
second
no
question,
IP.
which I just discovered. So I just had my phone ring, but I'm on mute. Why
Right.
does that happen?
I don't know about your phone. First, the mute is it an iPhone?
Yeah.
Okay, and you've got this.
On the side, did you
Yeah,
turn it off on the
I
side?
just checked it. It's
Huh.
still on mute. but as you heard, it just rang.
Huh. Don't know. Must have been an important call. It was from Apple.
Hey, Scott,
Yeah.
I wonder if no IP would
Still
work
ring
for
on
them.
here.
I don't
It's gotta be a
think
way
it's
to
relevant.
override that.
The-
You
Oh, it's
have
alright,
your
it doesn't
own
ring, it just
domain.
buzzes like an arm.
No
Yeah.
IP, even when they
Yeah.
use a dynamic
Kinda
IP,
cool,
no
like an
IP
extra
sits there
Yeah, it is cool.
and follows where they change you to.
And also, I could
Well,
even
see, I
use
think
the
they are
message.
using a similar
read
type of service.
You're good.
In fact, I know they are because you can set your router, if it's DDWRT, you can
that's
set
not
in
bad.
commands
Yeah.
for it to
You know,
update
words that
their
come through.
dynamic DNS service.
Oh.
So they are using a technology like that to distribute their users across their system. But I don't think it would resolve this problem. I think this problem ends
The
up
way
being
we've seen the way
communication
I know
between this
things
point
do.
and that point.
We have
And the
two
only
sets of
way
friends
I can imagine fixing it
left town and had already bought
is
tickets.
Oh, my.
establishing better infrastructure or just resetting the connection.
Maggie.
You going
were
to the
talking
dinner
about,
tonight? Yes? Oh, too bad.
Why? What are you up to?
Two
Streaming?
sets of people
yeah.
left this morning and left us their tickets. We got rid of two of them
I know
yesterday.
somebody that needs two.
Came out with
do?
a list of free
She just called you.
websites
Yeah, let me.
For
let me
streaming.
tell you.
for streaming. One of them was Tubi. And I got on Tubi, the first thing I did was watch one of my favorite movies,
This town's
Conan.
wonderful. If you keep
was
asking.
great.
Okay.
Another, there's always an answer.
Tubi.
Right.
I'd like to see that list.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
forward it to you or forward you a link. I'll forward you that link. And they also put out a list showing you if you signed up for YouTube and I think it was Philo, but I'm
Yeah.
not positive at the moment.
It's the Mexican.
The cost was something like $54, whereas DirecTV is $50, and they showed
Telling Gigi this
the
the other
difference
day. I don't,
between
first of all, she's been going through this 2 months
what you
longer
would get
than
and
I
what you
am.
wouldn't get on each
She
one of them.
stands it.
Okay.
And you got a whole bunch more with those two.
You know what you can do is you can
I'll forward you that link too.
blend them.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that, and I'll put those links on the website too, so that other people can find them.
Okay, and,
Lydia, it's Meg.
Do you know,
I think we're done. Everybody's broken into their own conversations. We are over 10:15.
I just found.
I did have some other topics that I thought would be interesting, but I can save them till next week. I think they can sit. I got nothing that can't simmer.
Mortifying me to eat out.
Till next time.
Thanks.
You guys just go ahead and talk amongst yourselves as I shut down this meeting of the San Carlos Computer Club.
Bye.
You're welcome. We meet here at Tequila's every Tuesday from 9:15 to 10:15-ish. And anyone is welcome. I tell people all the time, if you come sit at our table, you've become a member of the San Carlos Computer Club. Everyone is welcome to join us. If you are interested in what we do, you can look on our website at scclub.org, where I host links to our podcast as well as our YouTube videos and any information that people would find useful. I just recently posted the Smartphones for Dummies video presentation and PowerPoint, so you guys can check that out there. The handout has been on the website for a long time. What else do I normally say at the end here? I am Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions, and anywhere you are on the internet, if you have computer issues and want some help, give me a call. My office is 526-220-622-226-0209. Our website is internationalcs.net, and I am done. Stick a fork in me. I am finished. Until next time, tech on.
You were talking about